Hey everybody, welcome to Workforce Gaming. I am Brad, here with Doug.
Hi.
We are in the middle of wrapping up E3 press conference coverage.
Mm.
Today we're talking about Sony's PlayStation 2018 experience, which was
It
quite...
was certainly an experience.
Oh, I was just going to make that joke.
Oh.
Yeah, so let's just start there. So Sony decided to mix it up this year, and they kind of alluded to some differences before this thing started, but in the
Yeah.
past they've always done a pre-show. I am of the distinct belief that they did a pre-show this year too. They just made
Yeah.
the pre-show a much bigger deal because as much as I love seeing The Last of Us 2 for a good 10, 15 minutes, and it was awesome,
Yeah.
we'll get to that. The idea of starting the press conference and then pausing the press conference for, it had to be a good 10 minutes,
Yeah.
doesn't work.
Even that wasn't to me, that wasn't even the weird part. His like walking out and then making all these like weird church references and then sitting in a church and then they're like sort of like awkwardly with like shaky cameras and bad lighting and bad audio. That was the part that made me go, uh oh.
Yeah, it definitely. I think it was until about 9:45. This started at 9 p.m. our time. I think it was
Yeah.
about 9:45. I finally went, okay, this is gonna be a good show, and that was the time that the Controls trailer started. And just kind of when you felt like, oh, okay, no, we are gonna do it. We are gonna do a press conference now. We are gonna do this. Don't worry, guys.
Yeah.
But yeah, just it seemed like I get what they were trying to do with the like you're in the church and you're in this, and then the first shot of that trailer you get the version of it in The Last of Us. I get it,
Yeah.
but not worth it. So
Oh
not
no.
worth it. And
No, yeah. It was a 3 second of, oh, that's neat. And then that was it.
you wasted a half hour of my time for, oh, cool.
Yeah.
And yeah, and the music thing, I love the music thing, but you can't do it twice.
Definitely should not have done it the second time.
Yeah, the one for the intro to Ghost was just like, because my first thought went, we're gonna get a 3 minute music intro to every one of these four games.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just like I think like halfway through it was like we're in the second game, 30 minutes into a press conference, and I'm already going like I'm done. I think you even might have messaged me like if this keeps going, I think I might just go to bed.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I was like legit. I was like already kind of tired, and I was like, oh, they're not really doing. I'll just watch the trailers like tomorrow because like I mean, I love press conferences, but like that I will get into it a little bit, but just that weird opening that he had, the weird opening monologue where everything felt really cheap, and it was just a strange, not well thought out monologue, followed by a trailer I was not too fond of, and then followed by that weird awkward pause. I was like, I think I'm just good. I think
Yeah,
I'm good with this conference.
and Sean Layden is normally pretty good at these things, and he
Yeah,
you could tell that he felt weird about it just in the
yeah.
way he delivered everything. So I don't know. It's one of those things where it didn't pay off for him. They've made some weird choices between the last PSX and now this on their last couple major events. So
Yeah, I think they're thinking about something. I don't know what it is, like what their thought is, but there's definitely like a thought. Like we're doing a thing now, but I
yeah,
don't know what that thing is. Like there's like they definitely made like a conscientious decision to do something different,
unique.
but it's not as clear.
Yeah, and I don't know where they're gonna go with it from here. But anyway, we'll
Yeah.
leave the rest of the press conference out of it because outside of I think the weird awkward first half hour, it if you I think if that's the thing that gets me most actually before we move on is if you started all in that room, you do literally the exact same thing you did,
Yeah.
but you take out the second musical number. You start with the banjo, and then you just play through everything. That is a killer press conference that will
Oh, yeah,
forever
yeah,
be
yeah.
tainted by that first half hour of what the hell is going on.
Yeah, I think it's just weird just coming off of like Microsoft and Ubisoft who always have like these super slick conferences and they
They
just
were
didn't
Sony
this year.
conferences. They both did a Sony conference from the past couple of years. They did
That's
exactly what
true.
Sony's done the past 2 years, and I almost feel like they're like everybody figured out that we know how to do this right. So instead of just doing the best version of what they do, they went no 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 no.
No.
Everybody else is doing our thing, so we're gonna reinvent ourselves. And it just sorry. Okay, I think we're
No,
like
that was
10.
dumb.
We're like 10 minutes in this. We haven't talked about any games. So, The Last of Us 2,
Yeah.
crazy trailer. I don't even know where to start with this, but I think what I want to start with is your thoughts on it, just because you are
Yeah.
one of the people who is not all aboard the Last of Us train as much as everybody else.
No. So this game basically had my major concern with The Last of Us 2. So the reason I don't like The Last of Us 1 is I think it's just it's a brutal game that is in a brutal universe, and I kind of like those universes in like small bits. Like I like the movie The Road, which is very similar.
Yep.
I like post-apocalyptic things, but it's like for an hour and a half, I'm good. For like 20 hours, just I'm not don't like being in that universe for that long. And the one thing I was super concerned about is that with PS4, they're going to take this brutality and take it to some ungodly level where it's just going to be uncomfortable and nauseating. And they totally did that.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I'm a giant fan of The Last of Us. I love it. And I do appreciate all of that stuff. And it does, I think, give a lot of context to your universe and context to what your characters are going to. But man, when that camera turned after like the little dance that they were doing and she's just
Yeah.
slicing the dude's throat, it's that half step too far. It's just like, oh, I don't know if I want to see this for, like you said, 10 or 20 hours. Like the little bits and pieces in a trailer, I'm
Yeah.
fine with that. I'm just concerned that it's going to be that after that after that. And you get to the point where you're just like, you're almost desensitized to the brutality of what this world is. And you're desensitized to the just monster that these people have become. And the
Yeah.
theme is hate, just the hate that everybody experiences for everybody else, because you're just constantly so over the top. You're constantly so violent. You're constantly trying to do these big slicing the dude down the middle and let his guts hang out. Like,
Yeah.
I get it. You can do it. You have the ability. It makes a point, and I'm not trying to downplay like the point that they're trying to make with this, because they are trying to build this universe with it. It's just
Yeah.
it's a bit more than I want.
I think the worst part was because the I really really loved the opening of it.
Oh yeah.
I thought it was like great character moment. It was like really sweet and heartfelt and nice and like warm, and then it just gets immediately brutal. And then the thing I really didn't like about it is that the violence to me, it didn't seem over the top. It seemed like, oh, this is what might actually happen in this situation. Like the one scene where she's like crawling under the car and she shoots somebody in the face with a gun, and it just makes a small little bullet hole. It's not like that gross explosion of like
Oh
movie
yeah, yeah.
explosion. It's like, oh, that's probably what somebody looks like when they get shot. Oh, that's probably looks like what happens when you hit somebody with a claw hammer. Oh, that's probably what happens when you stab somebody in the chest a lot. Like, and it was just like it was just so just brutal, and the animation was it was so good looking. It was so just the animation was so top notch, so triple A and everything. And I think that's what made it like almost worse. Is like Uncharted 4 kind of got away with these really great graphics because they had that sort of PG-13 big explosions and
Yeah.
stuff. But when you take that talented team and like, hey, we're gonna show what it looks like for people get murdered, and it's like, I'm good.
Yeah. I do think it's that fine line of like realism versus just you're showing me what this is.
Yeah,
And that does kind of take you out of it a little bit. But just the game itself, though, man, is there some crazy stuff that just
yeah,
in the monotony of this game, and I'm using monotony in terms of just the basic gameplay of this, just running around doing stuff, just some of the ways that characters are reacting to stuff, just some of the ways that like when you swing an axe and it doesn't quite hit Ellie and she kind of like does like the like tuck your stomach in, like kind of like whoa, like that kind of move, like they're
yeah,
just things you don't see in games. And even just kind of trying to pick out, like you said, just those like weird facial expressions that people have, like when he got shot in the face, you can like almost see like the look, and you just see this realism to it that's just, it's intense.
yeah.
And I don't know if that's for the better or for the worse, because every time I see a trailer for this game, I'm looking at it going like, man, I can't wait to play this, but oof, I feel like this is gonna be uncomfortable.
Yeah, and that's what it was. It to me, it was like that in combination with the already weird mood of the conference. It's just like, what is this? Like it was a weird place to start, and then it's like that was incredibly brutal, and then it ends like really sweet, and it's like, okay,
But
like
I guess just kind of talking about the trailer of itself, I think is trying to position it in that universe of like these are characters that are just trying to live their lives, that are like
yeah,
that are just, they're nice. Ellie is a nice person, and I mean, obviously there's the whole darkness side of it, but like
yeah,
she can be this nice sweet person, but at the same time there's this duality to it. And I think that's what this game is really going to try and focus on. And I think that's
yeah,
the way the trailer set up and presents it. I think that's what they're really going for, is just look how nice and sweet she is. She's just dancing in this church, just having a great time. Like, oh yeah, now she's slicing this dude's throat, but again, remember, and it's
yeah.
it's just this weird duality going back and forth. So I'm curious to see it.
I would just rather play a game that was just like that first part and that last part, to be totally honest. Just make a Life is Strange game. I'm good.
Life is The Last of Us Life is Strange edition.
Strange.
Yeah,
There you go.
I think
Yeah.
that could it could work. Um, so after our weird transition, and there was the weird like sitting at the desk moment where they did a couple of announcements or like half announcements.
That they
Um,
100% could have put in all that last week's announcements into would have been like a perfect spot too. But anyway, continue.
yep. Anyway, Tetris needed its time to shine. Ghost of Tsushima shows up,
Yeah.
and no cutscenes, no nothing. We just go right in behind the main character here, just walking through the fields, and it was such a slow build in that trailer, and it worked
Yeah.
so well.
Oh yeah, no, that game looked nuts. That was a jaw dropping moment from E3. Was the wheat grass, the rice grains just like kind of like floating in the wind. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, I've never seen that level of grass moving outside of like flower.
Yeah, and just I think when he kind of gets up on the top of the hill and just kind of overlooks everything,
Yeah,
because he starts kind of on the backside, and then you come to the peak of the hill there, and just seeing everything just really makes you appreciate what you're looking at, and makes you appreciate like where games have come from. And this is even after seeing the amazing visuals of The Last of Us 2.
yeah,
You have this environment that is so rich in detail, and I'm almost curious if they specifically focused on environment with that, because you just had the
yeah,
combat heavy The Last of Us one, where you can kind of go, okay, we saw that aspect of a game, now let's look at this. Because I think if you went straight into combat, you'd instantly start getting comparisons between the two,
yeah.
but you get that moment of going, wow, this just looks cool. And I'm curious to see how much of that world is open. I'm curious to see, how much can we go everywhere, because they stuck pretty much to the path as they were going through there on the horse and everything. So
Hmm.
lots of questions about that, but combat looked really cool.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. It was actually reminded me of, oh, what the hell? There's a fighting game that was on PlayStation, Bushido Blade. Is that right?
That's a game that I never played that exists.
Oh, okay. But basically, the thing I really liked about the sword combat is it looked like everybody took one or two, maybe three hits at most, and I really really like that. Where it's like bam, 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 and then the fight was over. Or
Yeah,
like when he took a guy out, and I really really like that. Where it's like, oh, okay, this is one of those games where every hit and every block gonna matter. So that was very exciting. I really like that.
yeah, where they're not more powerful just because they're this particular person, or you're not more
Yeah,
powerful because you're the protagonist. Like even the boss fight at the end, I feel like they only maybe made contact with the other person 4 or 5 times before it's like boss fight over.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and I really like that. It felt really, I don't know, realistic, I guess.
yeah, and again, I think, but again, it's realistic in a different way than The Last of Us. It's realistic in that
Oh
this
yeah,
is
for
what I
sure.
think sword fighting is, not this is what sword fighting is. Nobody's,
Yeah,
you know
it's
what I
movie
mean? There's
sword
no like
fighting.
weird open wounds and everything like that flying around.
Yeah. I don't know what there is else to say about it besides it looked really good and the combat looked cool. I mean, it looks like a neat game. There's not a whole lot there so far.
Yeah, I think we didn't really get an idea of story. We didn't get anything like that. I'm sure the game's still a ways away.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure this is probably holiday of 2019 would be my guess. So I'm assuming we'll get a little bit more story details at PSX, and then this will be one of the 4 games again next year that really gets the big treatment at Sony's ridiculously over the top PlayStation experience next year. Um,
Yeah.
but moving on, this is where they did start to get into, okay, this is where I settled down a little bit more. It's like, okay, we are going to get some other cool announcements from Sony, because that's, I think, always one of the cool things with Sony is I feel like they always have just stuff you're not expecting, or they always have the stuff that like is just super cool to see that we've never seen before.
Yeah.
And they started that out with Remedy's new game Control, which
Man.
I am a huge fan of Remedy. Alan Wake, going back to Max Payne. I still haven't played Quantum Break for some reason, but but their games are just always super interesting. Always just have really cool different plot points and stories, and they do a lot of
Mhm.
different things with the way that you just play their games. So I'm really excited to see this. It looks like they're trying to go all kinds of weird and crazy with this, which I'm really excited about.
Yeah, the thing actually that's kind of exciting about it is that it definitely looks like a lower budget than Quantum Break, which to me is not a bad thing. It looks like because the thing I really like about Quantum Break is the combat mechanics, but they don't really delve too deep into them because they have a lot of stuff interrupting with like cool cutscenes and like neat,
Yeah.
expensive looking stuff. So it looks like this is actually kind of like a stripped down version of Quantum Break. And I'm really excited about that because it's like if it's just combat focused, like that's gonna be a really, really cool game. And I really, really love the art style because I don't think Remedy when I think of Remedy, I think they like kind of hide like really crazy things in their games. Like everyone, it's kind of like the big cutscene. So it's like
Yeah.
the big finale is something crazy,
Hmm.
or they'll have like little bits of big crazy parts like throughout the game. But it's cool. Like that is the setting, is like those really big moments. It is cool because I was watching this. I was like, I can't tell if some of these characters are, if they're video or if they're actually there. um,
Yeah.
so I'm wondering if they're going to play a little bit, because they played a little bit of that in Quantum Break, which actually was not. It wasn't bad. It's kind of neat. So I'm curious, they're going to kind of use a little bit of that sort of like real video kind of mixed with the gameplay and stuff like that. That game just looked, it just looked really neat. I really liked how clean it looked, on top of all the cool Quantum Break crap that was going on.
Yeah, and you clearly have some kind of powers going on, moving people around, and
Yeah.
just some unique gameplay. I think is going to be in there as well, which just a good kind of moving away piece from the realism of The Last of Us and Ghost, just to get into something kind of just ridiculously crazy.
Yeah, it definitely felt like a palate cleanser.
Yeah, which was nice. And again, I'm excited for that. A lot of the stuff in there just looks weird, different, and unique. And Remedy just has an awesome track record of doing games like this. So
Yeah.
uh, we'll see. And then moving from there to, I honestly think what a lot of people would say is the main thing here. That is the Resident Evil 2 remake. Um, did you play
Was,
Resident Evil 2?
no, I didn't actually. I played. I was more of a Parasite Eve Dino Crisis kid.
Okay, so yeah, so I don't think either one of us has the history with this game because
Yeah.
I've played it in recent years, just kind of going
Mhm.
back and hitting some of the PlayStation games that I never really got around to. Big fan of Resident Evil post Resident Evil 4, not so much pre Resident Evil 4, but
Yeah.
I am pumped about this just because I know the story of Resident Evil 2. And it does look like they're doing a lot of the more over the shoulder Resident Evil 4 style, which is my preferred style of Resident Evil, but just
Yeah.
man, does this look cool. And it looks like, I think every time you hear remake, you get that like little bit of hesitation of going like, okay, how much are you really going to put into this? And this really looks like they took their time and they went, no, we're going to do this right.
Yeah, it definitely feels like they really, really thought about it. I think the thing that's really cool, because I mean, I'm kind of like here or there Resident Evil series. Like, oh, that's kind of neat. It's kind of fun. I play like four and five, and a little bit two and three as well. So I find them like nice, kind of in the back of my head. The one thing though, like, did not like about Resident Evil 4 is like I thought it was a really fun game to play, but it wasn't scary. And then once the Resident Evil style 4 style gameplay for like horror games started coming along, like they had a lot of fun action games, but they weren't really horror.
Yeah.
They were kind of scary, but they weren't really. Like I think Dead Space 1 was still kind of that horror, but Dead Space 2 is definitely more of an action game that wasn't really that scary.
Hmm.
But then because I just recently came off Evil Within 2, which was a scary game like that, and then this one, it is cool seeing that gameplay. Like this, the trailer to me was creepy, and I wasn't
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
expecting to be creeped out by Resident Evil. I think I haven't played 7 yet. That's kind of the back of my head to play. But to me, Resident Evil is not a scary series, and it's cool to see it go back to being a scary series like it was on the PlayStation.
Yeah. 7 for sure. Seven has some crazy moments in it that are
Oh
pretty
yeah,
nerve wracking. But yeah. And I don't know. I think that Resident Evil, I think 7 really put it in a good spot. And I think even going before
yeah.
that, the Revelation series, just trying to kind of go back to basics a little bit more after 5
Mhm.
and 6 and where it was at. I think Resident Evil is just on the huge upswing right now, so I'm just excited to see this and just where they even go from there.
Yeah, it's just cool. It's cool seeing them go back to their horror roots. Oh, I also like the game is like set in the same time period like Resident Evil 2 came out.
Oh
Like
yeah,
they're it's like very 90s. It's like, oh, that's kind of cool.
yeah, and again, I think that's one of those weird things that games don't necessarily explore time periods too much, so it'll be cool just to play a
Yeah.
modern game in that time period.
The far back time of 1998.
Whew, a long, long time ago. So moving on, Kingdom Hearts 3 got what I think is the best trailer that it had, because I think it had a trailer at what felt like almost every press conference. I was a little surprised it didn't even show up at Nintendo today,
Yeah.
but it was everywhere, and I think PlayStation got the good one.
It did, because I think the Xbox One and the Square one, which is basically the Xbox One, was basically like an update. It felt like more like an update trailer on Kingdom Hearts, and then
Yeah.
this was the, oh, there's also other stuff we're not telling you about, and that's actually, this is like the new stuff.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, that trailer, I was shocked how good that looked.
Yeah, and that was the thing is every time I saw this game, I couldn't believe the level of detail, couldn't believe how good it looked, and then even
Yeah,
seeing just kind of some of the comparison pieces where you're seeing, I don't know the girl's name from Tangled, but you're seeing her, and then you're
yeah.
seeing Jack Sparrow, who's very much a real person, and both look so distinct and so good and so perfect in what they should look like.
Yeah, I think I was yeah I was I think the thing that's kind of I was surprised first of all how good it looked. I was surprised. It is kind of cool because one of the big things they pushed with Kingdom Hearts 3 way back in the day is like, hey, we're gonna make every area look like it's from that. So if it's
Yeah.
gonna be a 3D movie, it's gonna look like that 3D movie. It's a 2D movie, it's gonna look like the 2D. It doesn't really look like they've held onto the 2D one too much. Um, but I was just shocked, like, oh, the word this looks like a current gen game. I was surprised about that. That looks like a current gen game. I think it is very funny that they are doing Pirates 3 and kind of just indicates how long this game has been in development because there's been two other pirate movies since then.
Yeah.
And this is also a point in time when having a Tangled universe and a Pirates 3 universe made sense. like,
Yep. And it's one of those like we're too far along to abandon this. We got to go with
oh
it.
yeah,
Sorry guys. We don't have it's got to go. And I think that's one of the like things I think Kingdom Hearts does run into is I've
yeah,
been going back through the series just to kind of reacquaint myself with it because it's been so long since I played a lot of these. And you got
yeah.
to definitely go like that. Oh yeah, like that was a big deal then.
Yeah, like the Chicken Little summon in Kingdom Hearts
Exactly.
2. It's like
Yep. That was this exact one I was thinking of where it's like, oh yeah, that was a thing.
yeah, exactly. And it
So
is kind of interesting. It's like definitely a time and yeah. So it was neat. It was neat looking, but it's just like, oh boy, this game just got to come out, man. We can't wait too much longer on this.
yeah, we're losing references left and right here, but
Yeah,
yeah, it looks awesome.
looks amazing. Yeah.
So the next one is the always curious Death Stranding.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like we got what we wanted, and it
Yeah.
still wasn't what I wanted.
We got our contractually obligated gameplay
Yes,
trailer.
but like I don't know. I This is one of those things where like I love Metal Gear,
yeah.
love it, and even like I, I want to be all in on this game, and I
Yeah.
just can't do it, and I don't really know why that is. I was waiting for gameplay, and then I saw gameplay, and I was actually more intrigued because it wasn't what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
This was literally just looked like you're running around these like barren wastelands
Mhm.
collecting what appear to be dead bodies.
Sometimes, and sometimes they're just like boxes, but like
Yeah.
really weirdly specific boxes.
Yeah. So I still don't have any clue what this is, but it's definitely not what I was picturing when I thought we're going to
yeah.
see Death Stranding gameplay. The last little clip there where he's walking through and there's the weird black silhouette guys kind of hanging out there.
Yeah.
That is more what I expected to see.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But that
Yeah.
was such a little chunk compared to just the like, here's our character running through these environments. I'm very curious to know what this is going to end up being. Is it going to be because my first mindset goes to this looks like a survival game more than
Yeah.
anything else. Is it going to lean into some of those survival aspects? Is it going to go into more of the horror roots like we saw kind of towards the end? There's a lot of directions this feels like it's going, and I cannot place it at all.
Yeah, I think I had mentioned this to you like when we were watching it. Was just like it feels like we kind of expected like an action game, and we kind of got like a weird arty game that's like
Yeah,
a triple A weird arty game. Um, I think it's cool. I think this time the intrigue is not annoying. It's like, oh, okay, here's the new. I think before me and you we always talked about like, oh, you didn't like these trailers too much because it just kept adding more weird stuff, but it's
yeah,
kind of in the same spot of being weird. But now it feels like, okay, it's not just another weird trailer. They did add this additional wrinkle. It's like, okay, we at least now have like can start thinking about the gameplay a little bit. It's not just an idea anymore. There actually is something there. I don't know what that is. Um, but no, it's really cool. And I think and it was kind of interesting. The cutscenes weren't just did not feel like art films anymore. They actually felt like, okay, there's actually like there's an actual story here. It's
there's a
not just
context
like
to it.
a yeah, yeah, exactly. There's a context to all this crazy shit. It's not just the crazy shit like weird art film. Like there actually is a story going on here. I really like that. I liked a lot of the little details. I thought it was like really cool. She's like, "Can you see them?" He's like, "No, but I can feel them." And you can start see him like get like a really horrible allergic reaction, which is like
Yeah,
just the idea of getting an allergic reaction from like monsters is such a weird, cool idea. Um,
yeah.
um, but yeah, no, it looked really cool. It looked neat. It has me more interested now than I was before because I was just expecting another weird trailer. The thing that I thought was kind of funny when I was watching this, when the guy pulled out a gun, there's like a weird like comfort, like, oh, okay, there's gonna be guns in this. But I was like, that's that's weird. That was a weird reaction I had to this. Like, why is the only thing that I can hold on to this thing is like a sense of familiarity is a guy pulling out a gun? It's like we should probably be changing games.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and again, I think I think that's just again that sense of what you were expecting, because we've seen
Yeah.
guns in the previous trailers. We've seen kind of more of that aspect to this game, and again, that was always kind of my issue with this game is they were teasing so many different directions with it, and now having
Yeah.
seen it, you definitely get a more of a feel for what this is. And I think coming off of what was going to be Silent Hills, before he
Hmm.
started this, I think that's still kind of the direction they wanted to take this, is in that more moody, that more horror-ish leaning type of game, more so than an action
Yeah.
game that I think a lot of us were expecting. When you just go, oh yeah, that dude who did Metal Gear, you go, oh okay, it's gonna be Metal Gear. But really what his last game was Silent Hills, and that's where his
Yeah.
mindset was before coming into this. So I think I'd be curious to know a lot of like the mood and a lot of the just the overall tone and feeling of that. I think a lot of that might have come over from Silent Hills, and now having seen this this last trailer.
That's true. And actually, the other one thing I kind of want to point out is actually, like you're saying, the mood is definitely very Silent Hill and horror. The thing I thought was kind of interesting is the cutscenes of the two characters talking felt very Metal Gear to me. Like when you first meet Eva in
Uh-huh.
Metal Gear Solid 3, where it's like she knows everything and you know nothing. It was like, oh, it's that scene. It's kind of neat just seeing that sort of like familiarity of like
Yep.
seeing that draw on these things you're familiar with, and then there's all this unfamiliar as well. I'm actually very excited about it. It looks like it's actually coming along and turning into something, which I like.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that concern that I know I had a year or two ago when they were talking about it is, oh, this is going to be like 2021, this is going to be forever away.
Yeah.
You definitely get the feeling after watching this, like, nope, they're on pace, they're on a good pace, and
Yeah.
this isn't as far as I think a lot of us assumed it was going to be.
Yeah, yeah, we definitely there's still not a solid idea of what's going on.
No, yeah, and again, I think you mentioned it too. It's there's more than just like a half-brained idea to this. Like you
Yeah,
can tell
yeah,
there is a direction. You can tell we are going somewhere, which was again part of my concern with the random short films we've been getting.
yeah. Are you more
Um,
excited about it now or less?
I'm about the same. I'm more okay
Okay,
talking about it because even before, because again, like I was so sick of those short film trailers that I didn't even want to like mention it. It wasn't even something I thought about. I was
gotcha.
still interested. I was still excited. It was just one of those like I felt like it wasn't a real thing, so I didn't want to even bother like considering it. Whereas
Okay,
now going, okay, I've seen it run. I know it's a game. Um, I'm the same level of excited about it. I'm just much more open to it being a thing now, I guess, if that makes sense.
okay. No, that makes yeah. That no, that absolutely makes sense. I get what you're saying.
Yeah. So to wrap this up, Spider-Man,
Yeah,
which felt like a weird note to end on just because that's the one that comes out in like 2 or 3 months from now. We're going to be playing this. So, doesn't feel like the normal tease that you get at the end of a conference of like, hey, here's that thing that's coming out in 5 years. It's just, no, here we go. We're just going to show you that game that you're all excited to play in a couple months.
yeah. I think at first I was kind of disappointed that there wasn't the one more thing, but like I was thinking of like that was a good one more thing just in general, just by itself, because
Yeah.
it was neat. I think the one thing I really liked about the trailer was I'm kind of like okay in the game. I think it's interesting. Like I'm not like super hyped on it, but the thing I did like is like I liked that they showed all the villains. I wasn't
Yeah.
expecting that. It's just like because they've been kind of like teasing. It's like okay, here's like one guy. Here's Mister Negative that you guys don't really know. Maybe some of you guys know. Okay, here's like a little picture of maybe a glimpse of so and so. But it's like no, here's Scorpion. Here's Vulture. Here's Electro. Here's Mister Negative. Here's Rhino. And it's just like oh great. Okay, great. That I really love that.
Yeah. And I think it gives you a better idea of what the game is. Because I think up to this
Yeah.
point, a lot of it was just, oh, yeah, you're just Spider Man. And that's selling the game itself. Whereas now you
Yeah.
get much more of a picture of, okay, no, I'm Spider Man. The bad villains are getting out. I got to go hunt them down. It's going to be multiple villains. It's not necessarily
Hmm.
just going to be I got to go find Doc Ock and fight Doc Ock 4 times. It's okay.
Yeah.
No, there is more. I think that the way they presented this leads it to a better story as the game progresses. And I think, again, I think just even watching people play it, it's one of those games that just looking at it looks like fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
And especially when you compare that with Sony's other big three that we saw here, and even yeah, Sony's other big three that we saw here, it just looks fun. And it's one of those
Hmm.
things where it's like we're not. This isn't the serious, over the top Death Stranding. It's not the intense, crazy, violent The Last of Us. It's just
Yeah.
games can be fun. Let's have some fun. We're gonna end on a fun note. Here's Spider
Yeah.
Man. Look at him fly around. Doesn't that look like a great time?
Yeah. That's true. I think Sony actually I think has an issue with fun. I think their games are excellent. I think that their first like mantra is not let's make a game fun. I think they're better for it. I think they make interesting games because that isn't their mantra. But every once in a while, it's just come on, guys, like lighten up a little bit.
Them and Nintendo, I think, are polar opposites. Where Nintendo's like
Yeah,
story, realism, screw that. Is it fun? And Sony's like, no, 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 no. We'll get to the fun. Let's settle this out first. How many characters are going to die? What is the dramatic piece? What is the dramatic conflict this character is overcoming? And Nintendo's like, I don't know. He's jumping on turtles.
yeah, no, exactly. I think the funniest thing because I'm trying to think like what's the fun Sony franchise in my head. It was like Horizon, even that has like one of the most intense sci-fi stories I've ever seen. But like the robot dinosaur shooting game has like a crazy, crazy story.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I think yeah. And again, I think that's just it's different companies, different attitudes towards games.
Yeah.
But I think Spider-Man's just a nice. I think it's a nice breather in between.
Yeah.
We just had Detroit, we had God of War, we have these big serious Sony games. Now we get Spider-Man before we get Death Stranding, Days Gone, Last of Us.
Yeah.
We get a nice little like. All right, the amazing game that you're going to play following the trend of all these other amazing games. This is the fun one, guys.
Yeah, yeah, and it was a good up to end on. It's
Yeah.
surprising that game's coming soon too. It looks so
It's
freaking
done.
good.
It's done. You can looking at that. That's one of those games you can think of like, yep, that's just waiting for that date. That's all they're doing at this point. That thing's done.
Yeah, exactly.
Again, I think you lose some of the weirdness at the beginning, and this was a really solid showing this year.
Yeah, and I think the thing that like Microsoft knocked it out of the park so hard this year, it's just not hard. It's hard not to compare the two.
Yeah.
Um, I think Sony might have overall had more interesting announcements, but just they got to work on their presentation skills.
Which seems weird to say after the past couple of years. I guess to finish this off, are you okay if they did this again next year, where they just go, you know what, we're just focusing on 4 games, and we're gonna have an hour-long press conference, and of that hour, 40 to 45 minutes of it is gonna be 4 games.
If they have another Resident Evil 2 to show, then yeah.
So as long as they have that like cool thing in the middle.
Yeah, you still need like two. Yeah, you still need like 2 or 3, like a real small. Like you could have less and not like kind of small announcements, like Resident Evil 2, Neo 2. Those were good announcements.
So we get our 4, and they put in like the first ever gameplay of the Final Fantasy VII remake in the middle of it, and then we're good.
No, I think you need to do a Final Fantasy VII remake. That's one of your 4 games.
Yeah, but that game's not coming out for 10 years, so that's not going to happen.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah,
Well,
I didn't mind the format.
all right. Well, anyway, we are Workforce Gaming. You can follow us on Twitter at Workforce Gaming. Subscribe to us wherever you're listening, and we will see you later.
Bye.